Well, before we bring on our first guest on today's show, I want to ask you all a question about your organization's culture of quality. Namely, when it comes to opportunities for improvement, do you do what's required or do you do what's desired? That's a pretty interesting little question there. I mean, is it just you're doing what you have to do or are you doing what you want to do to improve your organization? And I think if most of us answered honestly, we'd say that we spend a lot of time just fulfilling requirements, particularly when it comes to the pursuit of the range of financial, governance, sustainability, and quality-based activities that can really broadly be considered as compliance to a given standard or regulation. When you think about it, however, the value in achieving these various operational excellence activities comes less from checking off boxes or passing an audit or getting a certification, and more from the actual improvement of your processes, not to mention your enterprise as a whole. Now, that's the topic of a webinar that we're hosting in conjunction with Verse Solutions this coming Tuesday, March 28th, titled Achieving Operational Excellence, How to Create a Culture of Quality for Desired Outcomes. And you can see it right there. It will present some options for you to consider in moving past the realm of mere requirements and into the world of real sustainable improvement. Presenting that webinar will be Tim Lozier, Director of Product Strategy at Verse Solutions. And Tim is with us now to offer a little sneak preview of that presentation. So, Tim, welcome back to Quality Digest Live.
Hey, Mike, you're getting all choked up there. I guess you're really emotional about this.
I'm getting all choked up. I'm talking a lot. Usually Dirk interrupts me and says, let me say something. But in this case, I'm doing it on my own. But I got you now, so that's great. You can interrupt me. So let's start with an easy one. Maybe it's an easy one. Why do you think people settle for compliance when it's clear that what they really want and need is excellence?
Yeah, it's funny because when just like you said, when you think about what we are doing in our daily activities and when you think about compliance, it's really about kind of doing the homework, what's required of us. So you want to make sure that you're doing exactly what fits within your standards, your frameworks, anything of that nature. And I think when companies focus a lot of their attention on that, they miss a part of this whole operational excellence thing. And I think operational excellence as a term tends to get kind of muddied when you start to say, well, what exactly is operational excellence? And I really like the idea of saying, it really means compliance is what's required of us. It's what we have to do to make sure that we meet whatever standards we have. But operational excellence is putting in place the mechanisms and the elements to go beyond just what's required, because we still have to do that, but it's also about looking for efficiencies and looking for ways to impact change and create a culture and make sense of the data to really get to a desired state where we're actually really improving the business with respect to how we're meeting those needs.
As many of us have learned the hard way, there's a difference between what you can consider maybe gathering data and interpreting reality. You refer to something you call the single source of truth, which I thought was a great term. Can you explain what that's all about?
Yeah, so data is a tricky thing, and I think what a lot of companies find is that you have a lot of information that's coming into your world, your world in general, but certainly in your professional world every day, and whether you're getting it from various different stakeholders in the business, various different areas from a business technology standpoint, you're collecting all this data. And if you don't have it all in one place, you're going to have trouble actually understanding what the real truth is. It goes in two fashions. I mean, if you think about it from a data collection standpoint, how many places do you need to go to find the data you need to make better decisions and really meet your metrics versus having one single place? So the single source of the truth is really just saying, how can we devise a central place, a hub for where all our data, at least with quality and compliance, where all the data kind of lives. And then that's the first challenge. The second challenge is okay, well, we have all this data, but without a means to make sense of it and make decisions on it, we really just have data. So I think the two elements become is a single source for all the data, and then a way to actually uncover the truth through metrics and reporting and details that will actually impact your change to the business.
I mean, if that data is siloed, I guess you maybe fall into, can we call it alternative facts? You fall into
Yes.
this idea where you have different perspectives on things and different people looking at it in silos and maybe not really coming to a conclusion about what the actual reality of your process is. Is that a fair
Sure. Yeah,
assessment?
definitely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's talk about culture. I mean, culture obviously plays into all this, especially in an organization in which change management and risk management maybe is just as important as quality management. Do you think that's true about quality?
Yeah.
About
Well, I
culture,
mean,
I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean, culture, especially in quality, if you look at the way the new standards are coming out and the way they're kind of positioning the organization with respect to quality, you're looking to enroll more stakeholders into the business, into the quality story. I like to call it the story of quality because there's a lot of facets to it. There's a lot of roles. There's a lot of pieces that come in. And just like you have with the data, you have certain levels of knowledge. It's almost like tribal knowledge from various different areas, operations, production, supply chain, even from executives that you want to tap into, and you want to make sure that they are putting that information into the overall process. And so that's where culture really becomes an important part. The challenge there is really about who speaks what language in the context of quality. So you have to start thinking about what can we normalize in terms of our nomenclature and our terms to really promote a culture of quality without freaking people out and saying, I don't speak quality, I don't understand these quality terms. And that's where a lot of terms like, using risk-based thinking comes into play. It kind of normalizes it across the business so that way people can understand, okay, well, I see these hazards that exist and they could potentially present a quality problem. I'm going to be involved with it. And so I think what an operational excellence mindset becomes is, we're meeting the requirements, but are we involving all the right people, and are we getting the other areas of the business to look at the risks that might impact quality, that might impact our efficiencies, that might drive us to need more change in the organization for continual improvement?
And I guess that those challenges are multiplied, obviously, when you go outside your own four walls. I mean, sure, there's a lot of suppliers and even other divisions maybe of your own company, your own enterprise that are outside your four walls that you have to interface with and kind of get on the same page with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be the case. Well, how about maybe some of the unique challenges of small and medium-sized companies in moving away from that requirements and compliance mindset you mentioned?
Yeah, and this one becomes pretty important because if you look at a company who is just starting on their compliance journey, their quality journey, they are learning to implement systems. They've kind of decided to get into this area where they're able to consolidate and put all their requirements, their processes into a singular system. They're still in that compliance mode, and they're still just saying, I gotta make sure my house is in order and make sure that I'm meeting the regulations, meeting the standards. And so operational excellence as a concept tends to seem like a far-reaching thing. But the truth of the matter is, and this is kind of what we're going to be talking about on Tuesday, is that there's a few core elements that you can actually put in place now and start thinking about that will set you up for going beyond what's required and actually going into that desirable state. And I think that's something that a lot of companies can benefit from is, well, I may not be on that, I may be still in that compliance mode and still trying to keep my requirements in line. But if I do this now, if I set myself up for the next level, when I do mature my processes, when I do get to that next phase, I'll have everything in place to take it and get that desired outcome and really impact change as an organization. So it's very beneficial for small to mid-sized companies to start thinking about this, even if they can't wrap their head around it right now because they're so busy just complying.
And scalability is a big issue as well in many cases for these small and mid-sized companies, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
And well, in addition to what we just talked about in these topics, what are folks who are going to tune in next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, going to learn in the webinar you're going to present?
Well, we're going to talk a lot about the differences between operational excellence and compliance and kind of some of the challenges that companies are facing. We've done several market research analysis to kind of show where people's heads are at today. But the real meat of the presentation is going to talk about what are the 4 or 5 things that companies can do right now to set themselves up for going beyond compliance and moving into this operational excellence mindset. And I think that's going to be really beneficial because you're looking for something that's going to give you tangible things you can do to really implement, whether it's solutions or methodologies, implement ways to really set yourself up for the best possible outcome, the most desirable outcomes, and really provide an impact on your quality operations to the rest of the business.
Well, it sounds
the rest
great.
You'll have to stay tuned for. So I'm not going to spoil any more.
We're looking forward to it. And again, that's Achieving Operational Excellence, How to Create a Culture of Quality for Desired Outcomes. That's the webinar coming up this coming Tuesday, March 28th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Tim right there is going to be presenting, and yours truly will host and field your questions. So Tim Lozier, thanks for joining us today. We'll see you on Tuesday.
All right, Mike. Thanks. It's been fun.
Thanks, Tim. Have a good weekend.